and being able to participate in the conference in Tbilisi. My name is Shay Hamama, and I'm one of the managers committee, participating in the managers committee of Games for Peace. And Games for Peace is an organization in Israel, and we work in Israel and worldwide to bring kids from different backgrounds together to play computer games. And the idea is to break walls of through computer games. The idea or the philosophy behind Games for Peace is that kids, no matter what their background is or where are they from, they like playing, and they love playing, and there's much more for kids in common than things that separate them. And Games for Peace wants to bring that world of games and the connection that there is between kids in games to reality, to real life. And the idea is, if we can do it and bring kids together, especially from different backgrounds and different countries or communities. Games for Peace started in Israel, as I said, as a mean to bring Israeli and Palestinians together, Israeli and Palestinian kids. And we operate several programs. One of them is Minecraft Talk, where we take Israeli and Palestinian schools and with kids on 8th grade, and they play together for 6 sessions of well-known and common computer games such as Minecraft. And they play for 6 sessions, and then in the 7th sessions they actually meet each other face to face. And the games are built so that kids have to communicate and work together with each other. No matter if they are Palestinians or Israelis, they have to cooperate together in order to achieve the goals in the game. So this is how we structure the game, and this is how we structure the program. The second program we activate and we work is called Play for Peace Weekend. In Play for Peace Weekend, we have a weekend, and we invite online gamers from the entire region to come and play together online in a controlled environment, and kids can play with each other. Also, we have online in-game translations so that kids can communicate with each other in their own language, and we see how these things work and how as a mean to bring kids together. So this is the idea behind Games for Peace, and thank you for inviting me to this conference.
Thank you very much in return. We'll get back to you with several questions. Meanwhile, Mehmet from Cyprus UNDP, could you please talk a little bit more about the Mahallae initiative that you're carrying out?
Sure. Hi, Nina, and thank you everyone for having us on this panel. I'm very excited to speak with you. So my name is Mehmet Erdogan, and I am speaking today on behalf of Mahallae, which is supported by the UNDP Act in Cyprus. Mahallae is a digital neighborhood for civic engagement. It is not a gaming platform in the strictest sense, but it is a digital platform where we encourage the use of technology to motivate people to do civic engagement, and that does sometimes include games and gamified platforms. So the word Mahallae actually means neighborhood in Turkish, Greek, Arabic, and many other languages in the region. And this is one of the reasons that we picked this name for our platform. So why did we create Mahallae, and why do we think that it can contribute to peace? I'll speak briefly about this question now. So before we created Mahallae, there were 2 problems that we were seeing that emerged in Cyprus. The first problem is that many people have been doing great peace-building work in Cyprus. However, the conflict is frozen here, as you know, and at some point, we felt like the projects or the work that was being done was not attracting new audiences. It seemed to be speaking to the same people over and over. We were unable to draw, there was a feeling that we were sometimes unable to draw on people from outside the usual suspects. So it felt like this sector, this work was being closed in on itself, and we needed something new to engage newer audiences. Another problem we were faced with was that, yes, there was great work being done in Cyprus, But even the civil society actors or peace builders in Cyprus didn't really appreciate the work that they were doing because they had no way of telling this story from a comprehensive perspective. There was no place where we could put our knowledge and expertise and be able to curate it in a way that could benefit both the local and the international community. So we felt that the answer to addressing these two problems lied in embracing innovation and technology. And so Mahallae was created, and now it is made up of 3 different sections, which I'm going to go into each very, very briefly. The first section of Mahallae is called Interactive Tools, which, as you can tell from the name, has lots of interactive apps, games, and these kinds of tools that can engage new people with peace building. So to populate this section, we launched an innovation fund a few years ago, and here we encouraged Cypriot civil society actors to take their knowledge and expertise and upgrade it to our current times with technology and present it in new ways. So they could take what they already produced and they could turn it into a game or into an app. In this section we have games such as Shared Words, which is a game based on common words between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. So a Cypriot can come to this game, start playing it, and discover the common words between these two communities and realize what a wealth of sort of commonalities we have between communities. Another game we have is called Nicosia's Calling, which teaches children aged 8 to 14 about the multicultural history of Nicosia. It is the first game of its kind that actually teaches Nicosia as a unified city, because many children grew up basically learning only one side of Nicosia. So this game allows them to explore the city culturally, historically, and geographically from both sides. So that's interactive tools, and there are many more tools, but I'm not going to go into them. The second section is the civic mapping, which lists more than 500 initiatives in peace building that have taken in Cyprus over the last few decades. So a local or an international person can go through this section and go through this amazing archive in an interactive way, and they can even add new initiatives that come up. Our aim in building this section was basically not only to showcase the work, but also to inspire people to see what kind of work has been done and what kind of, to give them a vision of what could be done in the future. The final section of Mahallae, which is keeping us very busy these days, is called the Mahallae Challenges, where we invite the public to come up with solutions to issues facing our communities, but solutions that are using technology. So Mahallae Challenges represents a new way of doing work for UNDP in Cyprus. It allows for solutions to emerge from, not only NGOs, but also grassroots activists, artists, and anybody else who feels that they have something to contribute. We simply post a challenge. We say, here's an issue that we would like to find a solution with, and then people start brainstorming publicly and transparently about their solutions, whatever they have in mind. And soon we see these ideas turn into bigger concepts and into projects, and from there, public votes on the best ones that they feel represents the issue, and then the judges pick their finalists. What we love about this method is that it allows people to design projects that are really accountable to the public, because what they're doing has to resonate with the public in order for the public to vote for that project. And I think here in this section, Mahallae really truly lives up to its name and embraces its goal of being a digital neighborhood, where people who've never seen each other are able to come together and address issues of concern to their community. And my colleague who will be speaking today, Esra, is one such person. She's part of a group of architects who provided us with an unlikely solution to an everyday problem. Their group was one of the 5 winners of the Mahallae Challenges, and their project is called Hands on Famagusta, but I will let her talk more about her project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mehmet, and really, Esra, if you could give us a little introduction of what our projects are you carrying out, it would be really valuable for us.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity as well. I am Esra Can Akbil. I'm an architect, and I'm a member of Bicommunal Imaginary Famagusta team, the IF team. I will introduce you today the Hands-on Famagusta project, which involves a gamified internet platform aiming to facilitate civic engagement from Cypriots to develop a participatory process towards reaching a common ground and to shape conflicting priorities into a vision of a future unified post-conflict Famagusta. The project is co-funded by Mahallae and USAID, and with in-kind contribution by University of Cyprus. And the overall project leader is Socrates Stratus, and our team of Imaginary Famagusta involves architects, urban planners, educators, and practitioners as well from both sides of the divide. Hands-on Famagusta project deals with a very sensitive yet hot debate about the city of Famagusta in Cyprus. Since the division of the island in 1974, Famagusta city is deprived of its Greek Cypriot inhabitants, and a dense portion of the city, namely Varosha, became a fenced city, a forbidden zone, under the Turkish military control ever since. Famagusta is always a topic in peace negotiations between the two community leaders that has been going on for a very, very long time now, on the basis of confidence-building measures between two communities. Famagusta is very often proposed for consideration to welcome again its inhabitants, even before finding a comprehensive settlement for a unified Cyprus itself. Whatever the solution will bring, post-conflict Famagusta stands now as a potential future divided city. A mental division line already exists within the people's minds, and our aim as a team is to work against it. People's competing priorities bring forward a major challenge in contested cities. As we shared our ideas with locals during our consultation meetings with stakeholders and administrative bodies, we have met the challenge of dealing with the imaginaries and mindsets of them regarding the city's urban feature. The competing priorities were often they were beyond their ethnic backgrounds. That's when we came with the idea of Hands-on Famagusta interactive web platform, which presents information, strategies, and tools under the unifying themes for the fragmented city through mobilizing the common concerns of both communities. Mahallae challenge for building common vision for the future provided an opportunity for developing further our idea to use the interactive platform to facilitate a participatory process towards our aims. We started our workshops with an extensive survey in the actual city itself, recording the building capacity with support of 40 volunteers, made up of Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, mainly young people and students. This information is being processed, covering the city as a whole, to make people really see it as it is. And we hope that that will change their imagery and mental maps at this very initial level as well. We designed offline and... Sorry?
No. I thought you finished talking.
No. Sorry. We designed offline and online activities that aim to support the creation of temporal communities of Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots who will work together to imagine a future unified contemporary city. In our offline activities, such as the consultation meetings and workshops, we try to create a productive atmosphere for participants to support the web building process by bringing in ideas, inputs for our website to take into consideration. The interactive Hands-on Famagusta website has a what-if and then structure to encourage public engagement through providing tools and strategies that people can use in order to test and see through visuals what would be the eventual results and consequences of different points of views. In their journey in the gamified and informative platform, the users travel through a process of deliberation where they can create, support, turn down, and modify an idea. They eventually reach to a certain vision for the city with their recorded achievements, such as creating publicness or creating a unified waterfront for the whole city, which is actually on the shore itself. We believe that creating this kind of a collective intelligence has the potential to feed the policy-making processes, to take into account controversies of all sorts. Participating will be an attempt of every user to look for a possible common ground for the future of the city. Our practice creates a good platform to generate new imaginaries and shift mindsets, which is very hard in contested cities. We reclaim politics, we reformulate questions, we reclaim peace with this project. We believe that peaceful coexistence in this island will not just come by political agreement on a comprehensive solution for Cyprus, but rather through the raise of public awareness and empowerment of its people. We need to start now to be ready when the overall political agreement will take place. This can set an example for many cities and countries where people have to share post-conflict territories. Thank you.
Thank you, Esra, for a very comprehensive description, and we wish you best of luck in your project. And now I'd like to give the floor to Jan Welch, our last panelist.
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm Jen Welch. I'm co-director of Build Up. Build Up is a social enterprise dedicated to supporting the emergence of alternative infrastructures for civic engagement and peace building. So we work with civic activists and peace builders to find and apply the innovative practices and technology tools that they need to achieve their missions. We also organize the Build Peace Conference, which aims to get practitioners, academics, donors, and technologists together to discuss how technology can help build peace. And after the last conference, which was held in April at the MIT Media Lab, we teamed up with the UN Alliance of Civilizations and the UNDP to manage their PeaceApp competition. So PeaceApp is a global competition to promote digital games and gamified apps as venues for cultural dialogue and conflict management. So we believe that there is definitely a role for games and apps in peace building, as we will hear to discuss today. So many people have noted the enormous engagement power of games. There are over 500 million people playing online games for at least an hour a day around the world, according to Jane McGonigal of the Institute for the Future. And in her research, she also found that people around the globe spend over 3 billion hours a week collectively playing games. So there is an argument for harnessing this incredible audience and the qualities that make gaming so popular towards peace building. There's also features of games and gamified apps that we find particularly relevant for peace building. The collaborative element of network games, for example, allow people to work together in gameplay situation that is either designed to break down stereotypes and conflict narratives, or that enables the breakdown of these narratives through contact and collaboration, and providing spaces for new ones to emerge. And briefly quote Mark's, at the end of Mark's presentation earlier, and I won't repeat some of the things he said that I was going to talk about. But I just want to say that there's already obviously quite strong movements like Games for Change or Games for Peace, for example, of people who are developing new games that can help build peace. And with PeaceApp, we wanted to support these movements by rewarding the existing work. So we have a cash prize for entries that are fully functioning, but we also wanted to support more promising innovations from people who perhaps aren't game developers or gaming experts, by providing mentorship and support as a prize for teams who enter a project that is still in development or at the concept stage. So talking a little bit about the competition briefly, we accept 3 kinds of entries: digital games or gamified apps that have been built for the competition, existing games, or creative repurposing of existing games to meet the aims of PeaceApp. And then our international jury will select 5 winning entries, 3 fully functioning and 2 in development, and 1 team member from each winner will be invited to present their work at Build Peace Conference next year in April 2015, that will take place in Cyprus. And that way they'll get the opportunity to present their project and their thinking to an audience of over 250 peace builders. So the competition runs until October, and we're really looking forward to seeing all the entries and to see and hopefully be surprised by the creative potential of peace builders and game developers to find new ways to try and build peace through games and apps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all our participants. It's really nice to see there have been many initiatives happening around the world in this regard, and personally for Elva, it gives us a really huge encouragement to have a wonderful and successful project here. I'd like to turn now to Mark for having a couple of questions towards you, and then of course our audience is free to ask some questions.
Yeah, I gather from you, Jen, that you did understand what I just said. So you are hearing, all of you are hearing what I can say right now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
I think.
In the meantime, though, I would like everybody in the audience here, just if you want to raise your hands and ask a question, please do go ahead. I really don't want to be but yeah, so let's start off with the discussion. I was wondering, perhaps we could start with gaming for peace. Shay, I was wondering, as you are undoubtedly aware, Microsoft has just bought Minecraft for over $2 billion, I believe, and some see this as a sign that online games, are increasingly being regarded as a real and serious part of our entire social environment, rather than just a means or form of entertainment. Do you agree with it?
Yes, it's actually quite interesting to see that move, because games used to be, if we go back 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, so games were online games or computer games were a form of entertainment for kids, maybe a bit older, but you were supposed, or you were most people, older people, just didn't continue playing. And what we see that is happening more and more, and Microsoft buying Minecraft is it's a good example for it, is that games have become a mainstream form of not just entertainment, but also a way of living, and something that is much more than just of kids entertainment or something like that. And it's not just a sector in society, so-called gamers who are playing games, but now you see that this is becoming something much wider that people enjoy. And this is why it makes games and us, everyone talked here, and it's quite interesting that games are becoming, we can use it as a tool to achieve our goals, and not just look at it as an entertainment tool, but really something that goes through life, through our everyday life. And this is also something interesting, it's becoming more and more socially acceptable to play games even when you're older. And it's not just something for kids, it's something, as human beings, we play games all the time, whatever we do. So this is also something that I think Microsoft buying Minecraft really gives a sort of legitimizes the fact that people like to play games even when they get older. I hope this answers your question.
Yes. Thanks very much.
Maybe just to follow up on that point, talking about the translating, the power of gaming as actually, now a big business. I was shocked the other day when my kids were telling me about this growing list of gamers that are apparently making millions of dollars every year simply by allowing other people to watch them play games. I think PewDiePie is supposedly the best, this global brand now. But just the advertisers will pay big money just because they know so many people are watching others play these games. So I think that power, that commercial power, and we all know the relationship between commercial power and psychology and advertising and all of these things. And we in development have for a long time been trying to tap into the power of psychology and advertising in particular to address very socially sensitive issues, from healthcare issues, HIV, all kinds of stigma and discrimination. So I think that's clear. I guess my question would be to the panelists. How do you? It seems to me that there are essentially sort of two dimensions in which there may be a little bit of trade-off. One is the scale, like you were talking about at the beginning, being able to reach massive numbers of people at a relatively more limited way, which obviously brings value. I mean, when people are across the divide, they may have never had, oftentimes have never had any contact whatsoever with people on the other side. So even just having a gaming relationship in the digital world already is something. But then there's the depth of the contact, face to face. And I like that, hearing really that transition going from the gaming phase and then bringing people together. It actually struck me as that's really a very nice way to tear down barriers first. Not only is it just using gaming as a way to sort of identify people together, but it actually, the youth have built already a rapport before they even see each other, which is quite interesting, because I think oftentimes maybe in more of a summer camp type of, you immediately jump into that, when people just immediately are faced with visual differences, or clues, different ways of speaking, or looking different, or different clothes, or different whatever, maybe already our hearts and minds can kind of close a little bit, and it takes longer to open it. But when you're working in this digital world where sort of everybody is equal, and I think that's really an interesting way to break down barriers first before the face-to-face physical contact as well. So sorry for the very long-winded question, but just some thoughts about where is the trade-off between the scale and the depth, and is everybody that we're speaking to, everybody on the panel, seeking to balance both, or purposely just seeking for the scale, or just going for more in-depth connection?
If I may start, is it okay?
Sure.
Okay, so actually, what you talked about, the trade-off between scale and depth, is something that we actually feel very strong in Games for Peace. So we run two programs. We have the school program called Minecraft Talk. So this is a very deep, let's call it more on the deep or depth side. So we have two classrooms, one Palestinian, one Israeli. They play against each other. It's only for 40 people at a time, but it creates a very deep interaction between them, because they play 6 sessions a week after week, and then they meet face to face. And this creates a very indeed deep interaction. On the other hand, we have the Play for Peace weekend, where we invite people from the entire region. So from Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Lebanon and Israel, of course, and Palestine, to play together online. And here, though it's runs the entire weekend, the connection is less deep, but the scale is amazing, because we can reach hundreds and thousands of people in the same time and bring them to play together. So there is a very delicate balance that we are also in the process of learning it, and how we can take the best of the two worlds and bring them together, and how we can balance these two. So this is from our experience. We haven't cracked the formula yet, but you really have to look at this in two aspects, and try to use and to balance them.
Thank you very much, Shay. It's a very interesting point, and I'd like to add to that as well. Having been part for reasonably short now, but still for the last couple of weeks of a sort of concept development of our own game here, I would like to also sort of add that there's indeed this scale-off between depth and scale. But tied to that is also perhaps it's hard to really put a word on it, but I would say fun. we often say if you build a game for educative purposes, it's easy to go too far in the educative purpose and make a game that's really serious and may have a lot of depth, but it's not necessarily very fun to play. And it's of course always very important to keep in mind that a game should always be fun, because it's a game. That's inherently what it should be and what it needs to be in order to become popular and thus achieve the scale. And I was wondering if that is something. I'm also curious to hear what, for example, Jen has to say about this, because within the PeaceApp competition, you'll be coming across a lot of game concepts, I assume, and so I assume that you're thinking about these things as well. So perhaps you have something to contribute.
Yes, thank you. So that was a really interesting question, really interesting point. One thing that I would say from some of the research that I did in preparation for PeaceApp, there is a sort of in sort of popular gaming like World of Warcraft, for example, the hours spent by gamers on that game are the equivalent of a working week, for example. So you get the scale of millions and millions of people playing and the depth of engagement. As this applies to building peace, I completely accept the fact that there's a trade-off, and I'd say it perhaps depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if it's about getting people to even get in contact, whether it's online, for a little bit of time, then scale would be perhaps the more important. Where if you're trying to and build alternative narratives, try to break down stereotypes and a negative perception of the other, maybe you want a less of a scale to begin with and more depth. So definitely these are issues that are very relevant. I'm not sure this answers the question.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if there's not any other panelists that might want to add to that.
I think I can add on that as well. Well, in Hands-on Famagusta project, we are dealing with, well, at the local level, we are dealing with 2 communities who are actually somehow in a comfortable conflict, we can say, because there's not a war going on, but we have a divided country, and we are still, going on with the peace negotiations and everything. So on the local scale, I would say, interacting with the website will bring a very important depth of interaction, where people will be, many of them will be interacting and considering each other's points of views for the first time. And that will be a very unique opportunity. And the gamification within the website allows them to meet with each other, which is something very precious for us as well. But our scale also, it is also, we imagined the website to be an educational tool. So we aim to reach the students, we aim to reach the researchers, and we think that this will set a model for our region as well. There's something else which is very, very important for the case of Cyprus, I think. Again, on the local level, I would say. There are kind of 2 schools of thoughts in Cyprus right now. I mean, one group thinks that, well, there is nothing that, people can do. It's a global problem, so it will be solved, and just let it be, we can't do anything. And the other group is like, which is actually a smaller group, which thinks that people have the power to have a say for their future, or to have the chance to envision a future. And we believe that the simplicity and fun that you mentioned, maybe somehow that we can involve it in that website, can somehow bring in people from the other school of thought, which is not really willing to be, part of any decision-making processes. So we believe that the gamification in the website, especially for young people, which didn't have any contact with the other community for 40 years now, it can be a very, very, very precious tool. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I wanted to add on what Esra said. Actually, this is what I wanted to say, is that when we're thinking of this trade-off between scale and depth, I think even in parts of the trade-off where it feels like we're scoring higher on scale and lower on depth, I think in a setting like Cyprus, where, like Esra said, contact is so important, even with what we would, think of as lower depth, it's still very deep, actually, because that might end up helping break a barrier, which might then somehow reverberate or echo in offline world in a much bigger way. So even if it looks kind of low depth online, that might actually have consequences in real world that are much deeper, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Mehmet. I was just wondering, is there any questions from the audience here? Anybody with a question for either one of the panelists or for me?
I have a question. Just a very quick one to Mehmet. Hi, Mehmet. It's Sophie here. I have a question about any specific results of the project. Anything that you can share with us if people actually started acting differently after they took part in the computer games?
I couldn't hear the last part of your question.
Any specific results of this project, if people really started acting differently after they took part in the computer games, if it really caused any behavioral change in the community, something that is tangible or measurable, if you can share that.
I think in some ways it is too early to talk about measurable results because Mahallae only launched 6 months ago. So I would say that we're not even in a mature stage of Mahallae right now. It's really the very beginnings of setting up kind of this basis, this groundwork for a lot of good work to be coming, forth in the future. But even in these 6 months, I think, what we're seeing is, for example, when we launched the Mahallae challenges in 3 different thematic areas, we collected more than 40 ideas. And all of these ideas were posted publicly, even though at first a lot of people were really scared to post their ideas online. They were scared about what people would say or if someone would steal their idea. And there was a lot of hesitation about even posting their idea, let alone start to collaborate together. And despite this, we collected so many ideas, and that got narrowed down to 15 projects. And then after that, we selected 5 projects to be implemented. In a way, this is the first round of, our first round of projects that are going to be implemented over the next 9 months, and people are going to be able to watch these projects get implemented through the platform. I think within a year we'll be able to speak more concretely about those results that you're asking about. But I think to answer you, I would still say that I am seeing, even small, but still I'm seeing a cultural shift in terms of how we approach collaborating together, how we approach finding issues to problems that are facing our communities, and even the way that projects are designed, basically. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My question is to all of the panelists. And, how do you manage the language barrier within the game?
Maybe it's interesting to first then go to games.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you ask the question again? I couldn't.
How do you manage the language barrier within the game? Now,
Okay.
you mentioned during your presentation you managed that you do some in-game translations. How do you do that?
In our games, we do have a language barrier because we have Israelis and Palestinians, so it's Hebrew and Arabic. We embedded Google Translate tools to the game environment itself, so the kids can use their own language. It's not perfect, so the translation is, Google Translate. It's a machine translating, but it's online, and kids can understand each other through it, so it's close enough. So we're using mainly technology because this is what it's all about.
In our work, yeah, this is an issue that sometimes comes up. There's advantages and disadvantages to working in Cyprus. I mean, yes, the obvious disadvantage is that the communities speak different languages, Greek and Turkish. But then the advantage is that many people actually speak English because Cyprus used to be a colony of, former colony of Britain. So I guess for the most part, we don't really address the language issues, what I'm trying to say. We don't, use Turkish and Greek. We just use English. And we hope that we can involve as many people as possible through English, at least during this first phase of Mahallae. I'm not sure if in the future we could try to use local languages as well, but in our experience that using the local languages might end up dividing further as opposed to bringing people together, so we choose to use a common language.
Thank you. If I may, I would switch to Mark with the same question. How do you see this problem, solving this problem in Georgia with the Argo language and Georgian language not being close to each other?
Yes.
And there is no Google Translate that can translate between those two.
What do you mean? There's no Google Translate?
Google Translate doesn't translate from Georgian to Abkhazian language and the other way around. Most of the Abkhazian kids, they speak Russian.
Yes.
Georgian.
No, exactly. But there is, of course, Google Translate does do Russian to English and Russian to Russian. It's also, like Shay recognized, it's limited. It doesn't recognize a lot of slang, which can be a good thing. Slang is not always good. It's usually not good. But no, that will be a challenge. So basically, we have two components. We do and the Minecraft, which we will work with the same methodology as Games for Peace does in Israel, in the Middle East. With the development of the game, we're thinking of different strategies because it's not easy. We would like to really give really Caucasian focus to this game to make it not just about Georgia, but about the wider region. So we're thinking of different things which would either be Georgian and Armenian and Azerian plus minority languages, but it's not an easy thing to put in a game. It does become a little bit easier with creating a game because you can load different versions. You can just ask the person what type of language they want to play the game in, and they can choose their language, and that's it. It's easy. So I think it's going to be a challenge, but I think there'll be ways to work around it. But it will be particularly a challenge, I think, once because the game we're now developing together with the Georgian Game Developers Association will probably be a sort of standalone, so that people will just play this game. There won't be a multiplayer component yet. So the challenge becomes a little bit less of a challenge then, because people just choose their own language. Once we hopefully, as maybe as a follow-up, we would like to also make this game interactive in some kind of way, and then that's something that we'll have to face then.
Okay. It's just I assume that the communication would be the biggest part of the overall project. Would be a huge challenge.
Yes.
The language issue. It's not just two languages. It covers region. The region in general, I think it covers around 80 languages. Most of them in German and English, except for their form.
Yes.
So this game would most likely introduce a challenge of promoting a different language, which is either Russian or English.
Yes.
It's not a native language in either of the regions.
No, but on the other hand, if you do take two of those languages, both Russian and English, then I think you cover a very large percent of the population already, especially young people. Because most young people here in Georgia, I find it works quite well. Amongst others, I think because of the fact that they're gaming so much online. And if you then combine that with Russian, then I think that could go a long way. I think we do have to be at some point a little bit pragmatic in the sense that we cannot probably account for every minority language outspoken. We have to work with some of the mutual.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
No. Sure.
So my question is about whether are you going from your experience whether the communication during the filming is going to be moderated. Because there always is a problem that sometimes participants, especially non-participants, they like to use the opportunity to diminish each other, and not to play, but to say that I am an Armenian, I am first better than Azerbaijani guy, or something like this between Georgians and Muslims, such as the same. It often happens online,
yes.
Of course. So whether the communication during the hearing is going to be moderated, and if so, then how? And if not, how we are going to avoid such.
Excellent question. I think the short answer is yes, but I think in particular, Shay can have.
I think Shay has lost. We have lost Shay. So, oh, here you go. He's back.
Shay, the question, if you didn't get it, was on the moderation of the online events and the prevention of potential conflicts between participants, which, as you know, happens in any online environment or any environment with kids, but is of course particularly relevant with the regarding peace and conflict. That's what we're trying to do here. And I was just wondering what your experiences were in that regard. Can you understand me?
Shay?
Yeah, guys, I was just disconnected and now I rejoined.
Yeah. The question was on the moderation of events. As you know, sometimes kids will try to seek conflict with each other in any environment, online or offline. So these need to be moderated in order to not to actually do harm instead of good. So I was wondering what your, I said the question basically was, will there be a moderation of the events? And I already said the short answer is yes. But given your experience, I was just wondering whether you could share some of your views on that.
Okay, so it depends on the program that we run, but every program has its own, let's say, set of control means and ways to moderate the environment. So if we take the Minecraft Talk program that runs in schools, junior high schools, so we add to every class one Arabic speaker and one Hebrew speaker instructor in each class, and then when they meet, also the instructors come, so the physical environment is controlled. And both for the Minecraft Talk program and the Games for Peace weekend, Play for Peace weekends, the environment, the virtual environment is controlled as well, to make sure that there are no insults, bad words, or things like that that are inappropriate and don't create the environment that we want to create there, because there is, and the risk exists, and we deal with it every time, because very quickly it can shift into hateful environment, and we don't want that to happen, and this is not the purpose of these games. So even when you have people in the Play for Peace weekend who come, so they try one time, 2 times, 200 times, they try, at the end they give up, and we have the place to allow kids to actually play and enjoy the game together in a more controlled and safe environment. And this is actually relates also to what Mehmet said about create a place for people who never interacted with each other to interact with each other. And this is a place where they feel safe to do that. Because in many cases we see that this is the first time that people or kids from Arabic-speaking country or from the Middle East meet an Israeli, and vice versa. And this is amazing. So you have to control this environment, and you have to moderate this environment to make sure that that you create a good place for them to meet together. Also, the tasks in the game are built in a way. So if we take again the Minecraft Talk program of the schools, we build a task, we create the tasks for them in Minecraft that will make them or will force them to cooperate with each other. So we take half of the Israeli group and half of the Palestinian group to be the red group, and the other half is the blue group. And the red group and the blue group play against each other. And this is again another way to moderate the environment and to direct the kids to play together, because the blue team has to play together and to cooperate if they want to win, and also the red team. And this is also a way that we use. So there are like a variety of tools to do that, and it has to be, this is another thing that has to be taken into account. You can't just put on a Minecraft server and say, kids come and play together. It doesn't work. It has to be controlled and moderated.
Thank you very much, Shay. I think that leaves time for just one last question, if there is any. No? Oh, okay, then I think I would just like to thank everybody here in the room for their presence here and for their contributions, and especially, of course, to all of our panelists joining from abroad. This has been quite an interesting event for me, at least, and I hope for all of you as well. And I do hope to also be in touch with all of you throughout the rest of this project and also beyond. Any concluding remarks from anybody else? No. Okay. Well, thank you again very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, maybe we clap.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Project.
I just have a question. When will we get to see the